Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Sawcruhteez Streamz, and I am your host, Sawcruhteez. I was unable to do a show yesterday, so I am coming to you with a quick show on my day off here. So I am seeing some action happening as I speak, so it will be a good time to definitely take a look at some charts. Let's see here. Looks like I am needing to update an order, so just give me a second. I apologize for this, but markets are moving, and I want to make sure that this order gets updated. Okay. So I will be diving into some charts. Sorry about that little pause there. And I am feeling a little bit low on energy, about ready to go take a nap. I just had a massive breakfast of biscuits and gravy with eggs and bacon and espresso, and whew, man, it was sure tasty, but my body is kind of struggling to put it all down to get that all digested right now, I'll tell you what. And my thinking may be a little bit slow, but what are you going to do? Just want to take a look at some of the different indicators we have been following here. One thing to mention, there was recently an update to the Lucid SAR, and a bug was fixed. And if you just delete, if you have it on your chart, if you close it out and then come here to Lucid SAR and re-upload it, then it will have the newest version. It is interesting. Looks like some people have put together some stuff. I was just checking out this Lucid SAR oscillator today. I'm not sure if I could use it myself, but it is pretty neat to look at. And okay, so now we have the new SAR up and running, and we will go ahead and start drawing some lines. In the last show, here's what I was looking at, was support potentially coming in from this trend line here that connects to this higher low here, and was a little bit worried about this SAR coming in. Made me think that, man, if we break this SAR, that to me would seem like a leading indicator that this trend line is not going to hold. And sure enough, that is sort of how it played out. And this candle was really funky. I mean, it looked like we were really taking off, breaking through 86, 85, and a lot happened on this candle that we might as well just go ahead and look at. So we broke through these highs, which reversed the Lucid SAR, and on the same candle gave us a buy trigger on the Peterbolic SAR. And I have noticed that when you get these kind of occurring at the same time, that I think that's going to be a significantly stronger signal than if you just get one or the other. When they both happen at the same time, that's definitely a good signal based on my limited experience with this new Peterbolic SAR indicator. So on this wick right here, we took out the Lucid SAR, we got a buy trigger on the Peterbolic, and it also got us above the 200 EMA. So when this was happening right here, I really thought that we were ready to take off and go basically for at least a 9200 retest. Would have made a lot of sense for that next leg up, somewhere around 9,000 to 92. And instead, it was just a nasty trap where it was only up here for a little bit. Let's take a look. Took off, so it was like 45 minutes there where things were looking really strong, The volume was, significant on these candles, specifically this one, and it really had all the signs of a real breakout. And instead, we just immediately reversed. One thing that could have helped you to potentially identify that in real time was the TD sequential did hit this 9 and got a reversal candle. So that, made it look like we're at least going to cool off a little bit, maybe, get a little correction. But it just didn't seem to me like there was much resistance above this kind of 8,700 or so. I was viewing us as ready to take off on that candle. And it also would have given us, a very nice sort of consolidation. Like, this just looked really bullish in real time to me, because instead of pulling back, it just consolidated straight sideways, which is significantly more bullish than, actually pulling back. And this action really, surprised me and was a really good, strong trap. And then it took out this SAR and wiped out this trend line. Let's see here if we've got looking for the Wyckoff prototype. There we go. Because there is potentially, something important happening here. Better check and make sure the video's working. I haven't done that yet. Okay, everything appears to be working. Maybe move that up a little bit. Let me see here. Definitely moving a little slow today. That's okay. Alrighty. So here we are looking at the Wyckoff accumulation schematic number 1, and have been following it throughout here. In last episode, we were looking for point number 14, the very last point of support. And what I had mentioned was how I will basically try to remember how to do this. How I would draw a trend line in. Okay, let's just get out of here. Out. And okay, that's just gonna have to be good enough, I guess. Can I get this? Oh, geez, whatever. Okay, I don't care. I would like that to be out of here. Perfect. Okay. Talked about connecting this point number 10 to the 12 to give us a trend line to help us understand where point number 14 may come in. And then notice how on this Wyckoff, how point number 14 does break down below this trend line if you draw it in here. So I mentioned that, I'll use this trend line to give me an idea of where I think point number 14 should come in, but also keep in mind that potentially it would throw back to retest 11's high. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. So potentially, it comes all the way back to retest this high at 11 and doesn't give us a good trend line. So we'd have to be aware of that and watch out. And that kind of looks like what's happening right now, all right? Instead of finding support at this trend line, okay, we have come back to the high of point number 11. Yep. Come back to test the high, point number 11. Right here is number 11. And right here we go, throwing back to retest and doing so in a way that it doesn't support this original trend line that we had drawn. So this has been a definitely a tough market over the last couple of days, because like I thought it was ready to take off up here, I thought the same thing right here. We had thrown back to retest support. We'd gotten this little shakeout, run on stops. Now we were taken off, and it really looked like we were ready to continue the markup once we again got above the 200 EMA, got above horizontal resistance. And even another thing that made me, even a little bit more bullish is this kind of cupping bottom. You can call it a button bottom. You can call it for some reason I usually just call it like a cupping sort of bottom that does kind of show the first signs of a potential parabola where you are really turning the corner here and starting a nice, move up following this move down. That each lower high, it struggled to make much of a lower high, and then it finally flattened out, turned the corner, and we could even maybe put one of these on top. Something like that. So it really, right here and right here looked to me like this thing was ready to take off, and instead what happens is both are just traps, and it has moved down in a significant way each time it looked like it was ready to take off. And that's generally what will happen following a trap, is it breaks boundary line, there's no follow through, so then it has a sharp reaction to the other side. And now this is all gone. This is all gone, and I think it's time to pay pretty darn close attention to this action we're seeing now. Let's go back out to the 4 hour. And basically, as long as we are creating a higher low right here, the Wyckoff is still intact. So absolutely, we could be still looking at point number 14 as long as it creates a higher low above point number 12. Here's point number 12, and this still has all the makings of point number 14. It's just been, having a couple traps along the way, and generally these trappy type of moves precede significant volatility. Before a big move happens in Bitcoin, there's usually traps that, or runs on stops, or both. And then after that is finished taking place, a big move occurs. So seeing these two kind of bull traps, but still a higher low forming, tells me that basically we are, still in an area where a significant move could happen, and it seems like this market's wanting to move up. But then again, we got to keep an eye on these moving averages. So here it was resistance. We broke through. Now the 50 has turned up and is expected to be acting as support, and it has been, but it looks like it's, kind of trying to break it down. Close below. Now we're back below again. Now that moving average is no longer angled up. It's now kind of flat. And this move here, when I said I didn't think there was much resistance above 87, this definitely was the area. And I had an order set here to profit take a little bit on longs at 89.50. So it was definitely a bummer that this guy wasn't able to get up there, because that would have worked out perfect for me. And instead, it has got really close and turned back around. So this definitely was a significant area of resistance that I was thinking about. And now what I'm really hoping to see, what would be great, is this would even be better for me than if we continue on the Wyckoff pattern. If we consolidate between the 50 and the 200, you get squeezed in between these and then get a golden cross. That would provide a really great setup for me to go ahead and build a significant position. If we get a golden cross with the price really close to those moving averages, that would be awesome. Potentially something else that would be awesome is another round of markup to like 92, and then maybe consolidate into like a bull flag or something like this, while the 200 goes like that, and the 50 kind of goes like that. That would be real nice, and again would allow me to build a very significant position. And something else that's jumping out at me is if we do something like that, it could potentially give us a parallel channel. Let's see. Yeah, that would kind of make sense. Where you get this parallel guy here and something like that. So a couple of really good options that could play out from here, but definitely still too early to get too excited. I mean, neither of those really good options has happened yet, and at this point, it's a crucial area right in here. Let's see. If we fail to support above 82.75, then it would really be primed for another leg down. I'm not expecting that, but it could definitely happen. And maybe you could call it like a head and shoulders with a bullish slant to the neckline. I don't like that myself. If it's a head and shoulders, I want either a flat line or a downward tilt. When we have this upward tilt, it will just be higher lows, and that's not something that I think should be viewed as a bearish reversal pattern. I wonder if we can go ahead and draw in a channel here. Yeah, I like it. This is what I was looking for, to get that median, that middle line touching in here, and then getting these, getting this action all in here. So I like that. I will keep my eye on that guy. And that is pretty much everything that I wanted to look at. The other thing that not only did we have this resistance from the moving average, but notice how we basically got back up to this high here at 88. This first little reaction is definitely a area that should be, recognized as resistance. So potentially in real time, I should have recognized that there was significant resistance above 8,700, but it's tough. what was most important to me was the daily, where we broke the SAR, we got a buy trigger on the parabolic, we got above the 200 moving average, exponential moving average. So everything here was looking really good, and a return to this moving average here, along with this horizontals here. There's a lot of good reasons to have made that read, and sometimes you're just going to be wrong, and what matters is the logic that you used and the process that you went through. Did you stick to your system? Did you stick to your guns? And if you're wrong and you would do it, if you were wrong but you executed well, then you can't be mad at yourself. You can't be results oriented. You have to focus on the process, focus on the execution, focus on managing risk, and then let the profits kind of take care of themselves. All right, take a drink of water, look at the chat before moving on. There's CME gaps at 4,800 and 3,600 from Demo made that comment, and that's something I have never really tracked myself, so I don't have much to say. I think it is significant. It does seem to be like it's an important thing to pay attention to, but it isn't, necessarily something that I pay attention to. Julian asked, will we see 6.5K? Impossible to say. We might not. I would give it a 35, 40, 45% chance. We'll say 40% chance that we see 6.5K or lower. I'd give it a 60% chance that this was the bottom. It does, basically, if we can avoid this death cross, it would really be ready to take off to the upside. If we do get that death cross, then I would become very confident that 65 is around the corner. So, if you're wondering, will we ever see 6.5K, because likely you're wanting to buy, I would say that, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just, don't be caught with your pants down if we don't get there and that's what you're wanting and that's where you're expecting to buy. Instead, have a plan. And dollar cost averaging is generally going to be the best plan for most people. And you can dollar cost average by time, and you can also dollar cost average by price, meaning that you could say I'm buying X amount every month. That's dollar cost average by time. Or you could say that I'm buying X amount every time Bitcoin goes up 1,000 or down 1,000. And then you're, kind of setting yourself up so that if we go from here to 93, okay, you buy in. And if we then go to 10.3, you add, and then if we go to 11.3, you add. You could do $500 increments. You could do whatever you want, and those are two really good options to dollar cost average either by time or by price, such that if it does get to 6,500, you've got money to buy. If it doesn't, you've got Bitcoin that is up into the profit. All right, wanting to look at ETH, BTC. Okay, so this thing is ready for some volatility, if you ask me. And it looks like it's going to be to the downside, if you ask me. So one of my favorite setups is a trend line break with a moving average crossover with price near, the trend line. And this was actually the order that I was needing to adjust. When I hopped on at the top of the hour, had a limit order set to sell this guy. Market started moving, order was unfilled, so I had to adjust it. I did end up getting filled, so I will now be interested to wait and see what happens. I think this is like I said, one of my favorite setups. So I'm feeling pretty good about things. So we've got, but there is something to be aware of. There's multiple things. So right here we had this trend line, real nice. Price just creeping up, creeping up, creeping up, getting ready to potentially, make a big move to the upside. If not, then look out below. So we broke down this trend line here. Also got a close below the 50 EMA, and then a perfect throwback. This is just exactly what I like to see, where you get this throwback and it's that kind of rounding top. We looked at the kind of the cupping bottom before, the rounding bottom, as a really bullish bottoming signal. Well, this is the inverse, where you get this Williams fractal and it's just a straight roll over, which throws back to retest. I guess we could adjust that down a little. Let's see if that works. Yep. And throws back perfectly to retest this trend line for resistance. Now that it has turned over, like any of these are great selling opportunities as far as I'm concerned, or you can wait for the full fractal to print and then wait for a breakdown of right in here. Or you could wait for the moving averages to cross, which it looks like they're going to do. Something to pay attention to is how there could be a lot of trend support still under this. Maybe this is just like the median right here. Perhaps this guy is just the median, and the real channel support is something like this. That makes a lot of sense. Let's go ahead and throw on this guy. See if we can get that to be the median. Not really. Yeah, you kind of, it's like something's going on here. I think maybe this is the best spot for a pitchfork, because we want a line here, and then this line right here makes a lot of sense too, and then another parallel line on top makes a lot of sense. So let's bust out the pitchfork. See. So we'll do something like that. Shoot. This pitchfork is a pain in the neck. Okay, so that's the median. Something like that. There we go. Get the moving averages out of the way. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense here. Where now, we see we're getting this, what is that? The 0.5. Let's get this 6.8 on there as well. Yeah, definitely a tight channel with multiple areas of significance, and this is potentially the bottom area, and it looks like it's breaking down, but not so fast. There's still 30 minutes to close. Look how close we got to my alert without triggering it, and now we're bouncing. If this closes back above here, that'd be a reversal wick that would keep this intact. So I'm watching this thing very closely and have been starting to rebuild a short position, and will be very interested to see if this thing is really ready to break down, which I think it is. Potentially forming a new channel here, something along these lines. So it's definitely looking like a reversal to me in terms of what did we have all back through here is higher lows and higher highs. Here maybe a head and shoulders, but have that bullish tilt to it. So higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher lows all the way up, and then all of a sudden, boom, lower low, lower high, lower low. You know, along with moving average, a potential moving average crossover. Right here. And didn't have that anywhere through this action, so it does look like the tides are shifting. And what is interesting is this 200 EMA will be waiting. If we do break down that channel, it may, you know, do something like this again, where it comes back to this moving average and then just shoots up. That would definitely be an area to trim. Short exposure that's centered up here, you know, definitely would be wanting to trim right around 0.020, I guess, 0.8, depending on where you are. So this is definitely something I'm paying close attention to. I think it is ready for a, you know, big move one way or the other, and whichever way it moves doesn't really matter to me as long as I'm on the right side. You know, just don't really care. I would love for, yeah, I mean, I do care. I would love for this thing to, you know, bite the dust and for the price to go into the dirt. But if it's going to make a big move to the upside and I can be long, then, you know, that to me is, you know, just fine. I mean, I don't concern myself with where I wanting the price to go. I concern myself with recognizing trends, recognizing reversals, and getting good, you know, low risk, high reward entries. That's exactly what I see this as. If we do just break back above here, we'll say, I mean, right here is basically this, the risk is if we get back above 0.0221, then I wouldn't be interested in holding on to a short anymore. It would really start to look like a trap. It would get moving averages to recross. It would get us back into that, you know, trend line that it looked like we broke down and threw back to. If we get back into it, then it's just, you know, nothing but a trap. So when we look at risk, let's say right here to right around here, about 2.25% risk, say 2.5% risk on a position entered here. First target is right here, about 3.72% away, so, you know, not great risk reward on this first target, but that would definitely not be the final target. If this thing is topping out around here, then there's no reason to believe it wouldn't come back to 0.0175 or even 0.016. No reason to think that wouldn't happen if we fail to really continue here. Let's take a look at some higher time frame stuff before calling it a day. We'll need a different exchange. Okay, so it was, you know, keeping this horizontal in mind as a area where the price would be wanting to throw back and retest. If it fails to do so, that would be bearish. I mean, that would imply that sellers are anxiously, you know, waiting to get out, opposed to patiently letting the price, you know, throw back up there. Right here, we did have the first death cross ever on the 50 and 200 week moving averages. That occurred right before we broke down this horizontal area of support. So there's a lot of reasons to be quite bearish this chart, whatever this chart may be. And we see that if it does kind of hold on from here and doesn't break down in the way I'm expecting, ooh, this is interesting. I've been using the tops of those wicks and thinking, you know, that had a little bit more to go in that channel. Originally, I was looking at something like that. But now if I move this down and really connect to these, yeah, I like this better. And now we're coming off of it. Definitely pay attention to this 9 EMA. That has been a significant area where, you know, these dead cat bounces have gotten above it for a couple candles and then boom. And this is what I'm wanting to see right here. That'd be sweet. Couple candles above the 9, boom, back below. Couple candles above, struggles, boom, below, get above, boom. Here, what do we have? You know, gotten above. These are definitely some reversal candles. Today is Saturday, so we have about 28 hours or so until the weekly close, and we've got inside bar kind of, what would we, is that a hanging man or is that something different because of how narrow? I think that may be a gravestone doji, and we will need to figure that out right now. Candlestick cheat sheet. Let's see here. And this sure isn't very helpful. I'm trying to get a big layout of this. Can we do that or no? Screw it. Okay. Yeah, not finding what I'm looking for. The gravestone, okay, now I see. Gravestone's what I often call a shooting star. What? Okay, I guess the grave, okay. So, if this was upside down, it would be a gravestone. The shooting star has a little bit bigger body, so I've never really distinguished between those. Oh well, good to look and brush up on the you know, finer details of things. So here we have a hanging man. I'd say another hanging man, both definitely reversal, and this one would be even worse, where it takes out this high. If it closes below, I mean, that would be a textbook reversal doji, which I would call this one a, you know, small shooting star. Maybe that would qualify as a gravestone. So as we are at the top of this channel and above that 9 EMA, I will be definitely, you know, leaning bearish. At first I thought that, you know, 0.025 or something like, yeah, 0.025 is really where I was looking, and now it seems like it's going to really struggle getting there. And on the weekly, I like to use really small moving averages, because the longer term, you know, are generally like this, where it's just not really giving you much. And when we do see this 50 not doing anything, it tells us we need to adjust that. So we're going to just take out the 200 and adjust the 50 to like a 30. Okay, so what I was wanting to look for here is this cross, which did come in, and to see if it came in on prior attempts. Here, this is kind of the perfect situation where it tries to cross reversal candles and fails to cross. On this one here, we did cross, recross, recross. So we'll be watching for that moving average to recross for price to get back below there. Was kind of hoping that that hadn't crossed. So let's take a look at the Lucid SAR, and then we're basically going to be done unless there's any good questions. So this is I was going to say one bullish thing, but it's not necessarily. When you have this long string of SARs and you break it, you know, it really indicates that we should potentially get a longer term, you know, bounce. But you know, you just really can't say that. Potentially, it's just like a, you know, like Tone says, a 1 to 4 candle correction after a 9. You can think of the same thing with the SARs, and I wouldn't say like a 1 SAR correction is extremely rare, and even like a 4 is pretty darn rare. So maybe like say something like a 4 to 8 SAR correction would be, you know, the bearish alternative to breaking this long string. The bullish would be to have a long string of bullish SARs where it actually is a reversal. As it stands, I think we'll just have like maybe a 4 to 8 SAR correction, and then when we break, if we break that, that would definitely be an area where I would be wanting to be, you know, fully positioned by that. Okay, go ahead and take a look at the chat, and then we will call it a day. What's up, Zizo? I appreciate you hanging out. Good to see you, and definitely agree. Smash those like buttons. Just added you as a moderator, and I'm sure I don't need all these moderators, but it does seem like a nice tip of the cap to people who have been supporting for a long time. And Zizo's not only that, but he's also a friend. We've met each other a few times now. So let's see here. ETH is as beautiful to short as Ripple. Ooh, I actually do want to take a look at Ripple, just because it actually was looking pretty bullish to me the last time I looked. So I'm just kind of interested to see if that is still the case. Yeah, I mean, this thing is looking interesting. It still is looking pretty bullish to me. As much as I don't want to say it, I wonder if a Wyckoff could be drawn in down here. It sure looks like it. Where you have, yeah, this little spring, jump of the river, jump of the creek. Yeah, this is unfortunately not looking, it's definitely in a different position than ETH, where ETH is pretty darn close to this horizontal. And something I have noticed is that XRP has been leading ETH. So this is definitely something to pay attention to, where they both formed similar like triangles, and XRP broke its down weeks before Ethereum did. And I wonder if it has continued to kind of lead, bouncing on the 13th. Let's get Okay. ETH really started to make something happen. Let's see here. Yeah, ETH is led on the bounce. XRP led on the way down. ETH has led on the bounce. So it'd be interesting to see if it's now leading, and ETH looks like it's breaking down, but XRP doesn't. So therefore, maybe Ethereum will be the leading indicator. And this is something that is interesting to me. I don't really do much of anything with XRP, even like trading, but it's something I definitely keep my eye on. It's a big cap coin, and it looks like a reversal kind of pattern with the head, shoulder, shoulder confirmation. And the target is right in line with that horizontal. It makes me think that potentially a good play would be short ETH BTC, long XRP BTC as a hedge, and look to cover up around here. And one of those should turn profitable. And if a big move follows and you get out of the losing position, at a reasonable place, that seems like a really reasonable option. And I always like betting on opposite sides of the market in positions that look like they could both work out in my favor. Like here, if anything, I think I'd want to be long around here. And again, it'd be pretty good risk reward where this recent low, this horizontal, that's kind of where the position gets, you don't really want to be in there anymore. And that's a good risk reward in relation to that target. And the same thing kind of can be said about ETH BTC, where the stops would be very well defined and the risk reward is quite attractive. So with that being said, I am going to call it a day. Because here in about 15 minutes, my St. Louis Cardinals are going to be playing in Game 2 of the NLCS against the Washington Nationals. Last night was a tough game. I mean, we almost got a no-hitter thrown on us, which would have been only like the third or fourth in the NLCS like ever, as far as I remember. Got one hit, and it was a pinch hitter in like the 8th inning, I think, that got us the one hit. And if we lost, at least we didn't have to go down in a fashion that we made kind of history on the wrong side of things. So was a little bit provided a little bit of solace that we at least got a hit before going down 2-0. And I mean, those are the games that you can't be mad about losing. I mean, we played great. The pitcher, our pitcher on the mound, Michaelis, had a great outing. I mean, was really sharp. I think he only gave up one run. He might have given up both runs. I don't remember. But those are some of the best baseball games where you only get like a 1-0 or a 2-0 where it's just a real pitching matchup. And you just got to, tip of the cap to the Washington Nationals and their pitcher. Can't remember his name right now. He absolutely was in the zone and lit it up. So, way to go. But we need this win tonight. We cannot lose both games in St. Louis. We are at home, and we need to at least split at home. So we've got Adam Wainwright on the mound, which I'll tell you what, he has an uncanny ability to bring his best stuff in the postseason. And some of my greatest memories are of watching him in the postseason striking people out with that nasty 12-6 curveball with Yadier Molina behind the plate. I mean, those are some iconic moments with Wainwright, pitching complete games or coming in relief and striking people out, and Yadi running out to him and giving him a big hug. Oh man! So I will be already, feeling very, very excited about today's game. And after the rough offensive performance last night, I am hoping that we bounce back and really, find some offense tonight, and we have another classic performance from Adam Wainwright. Not too much to ask, right? Okay, so anybody out there cheering for the Cardinals, I appreciate it. That's awesome. And you know that I will be. I don't have my Cardinals hoodie on, at least just yet. I do have my Cardinals socks on, though, so we will be ready to support them, and we'll be looking forward to it. I am leaving town on Monday. I'll be gone for a few weeks. The podcast will become, I'm assuming, pretty irregular during that time. I'll do my best. Maybe it'll be a great time. I'll be getting to meet a lot of people. Maybe we'll have some guests on. I really don't know. Don't expect a whole lot from me when I'm out of town. I generally like to, disconnect in a big way. So I may or may not be able to do regular streams throughout the upcoming weeks, but I will do my best to do another stream tomorrow, taking a look at the weekly close. So thank everybody for tuning in. I will plan on catching up with you soon.